Hello and welcome back to the channel. So for today's video, I wanted to play around with Notion. Now, I am a ClickUp girly. If you haven't seen my other videos, I am. But I'm also tool agnostic for the most part when it comes to finding a task management system that can help you get organized and get your work done. So even though I prefer ClickUp and I think that Notion honestly is a bit too customizable, like when your needs grow to a certain level, there's definitely value in having something that's super customized to you. But if you're a solopreneur or like a team of just a couple people or less, then having to build everything completely from scratch might be a lot. But for the sake of this video, and also because I definitely owe this video, I've owed this video for weeks now at this point, I wanted to just play around in Notion from the perspective of like a business owner that has a bunch of tasks and is trying to get organized and set up a dashboard that's helpful. So I figured that I would run through how I would attempt to do it in Notion. Now, I have not studied Notion. I have not looked at any other like pieces of the Notion content library. So we're really kind of coming into this cold-ish. I'm semi-familiar with how it's set up. I know it's really kind of like document based, and then you can add things from there. So I have a general understanding. I'm not coming in completely cold, but I'm not coming in with this Notion expertise. I'm just going to play around with it and just talk about some of the different ways that I would work with it if I had to work with it, and also some of the things that maybe I prefer in ClickUp, or maybe some things that I actually prefer in Notion. So this will be a pretty like raw, just playing around in it and seeing what it does type of session. Okay, so let me know in the comments if you have any questions, any thoughts, what resonates, what doesn't. You know the drill. Okay, so with that being said, let's go ahead and get started. All right, I created my account. Pretty easy, pretty similar to all of these tools where they're trying to set you up with templates and all this other stuff. I usually tend to just delete all that stuff because it's just not really helpful anyways. It's super generic. You end up spending way more time just trying to tweak the thing to what you need. I'm gonna click add new. Okay, and so here you have the option to add a new empty page, a new empty database, or build with AI. I'm not going to bother with the build with AI in this because, I don't know, I feel like I get my best AI use out of ChatGPT. For all of these other platforms where they just kind of add AI as a feature, it's very clunky. It's not quite as helpful as you think it would be. It feels like a bit of a distraction. I'm not gonna lie. Half of these platforms just add AI just because everyone's doing it, but they don't really know why they're adding AI, and they're not really guiding folks on how to best set up their information in the systems that the AI can actually be helpful. It's a whole thing. So I'm skipping that. I'm going to go straight to an empty database, and I'm going to do that because I know that in Notion, if you want to track to-dos versus just creating like a general checklist of items, then it's better to do it in a database, because with the database you have more flexibility with how you want to view things. And so that's why I'm going to choose that. ClickUp doesn't really require this step because everything just gets defaulted to a task within a list. So this database is essentially me creating the list that would have already been created in ClickUp. So I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste the to-dos that I generated from ChatGPT into this database. I went in, started playing around. Just a few things I noticed. So I had started with a database because I wanted to put tasks in there as to-do items. Something that I noticed that I wasn't able to do, or maybe it's possible I don't know how to do, but I tried to copy the entire to-do list and just paste it in so that each task would have its own separate cell within the database, and it all just put it all into one cell. So that was a little annoying, and I had to instead copy and paste every single to-do list item in there. I know in ClickUp you can actually copy and paste an entire list of to-do items and it'll turn them into separate tasks. So that, I was like, ClickUp's a little bit more intuitive and user-friendly in that regard. I also filled out the rest of the database table. So here, create whatever you want to actually go along with the task. So for instance, if you click the plus sign for add property, then you can add a date. You can add a status. So a status column for being able to say if something is incomplete, needs to get done, or if it's in progress or complete, that usual thing. There wasn't a property that was called tags. So in ClickUp, there's a way to tag tasks as well. So not only can you place them into statuses so that you can measure their level of completion, but you can also tag them so that it's just another way to categorize your tasks, which I find super helpful and especially important for folks who need to know what tasks they actually have the energy to complete. Like, I like to use tags for that purpose. So there wasn't really a tag spot. There was a text property. So I just went in and added that. So that's what I'm going to use instead of the traditional tagging system that I have in ClickUp. Important thing that I just realized. So text, really, changing the column in the database to text allows you to literally just input text. So the point of that is to make that box completely customizable, which means it's probably best if you're trying to add notes, like something that isn't necessarily going to be exactly the same for everything. And there is a copy and paste feature in there if it's something that can be reused. But what's actually easier is, instead of turning the things where there are pre-populated answers, instead changing the type of this column within the database to select. And when it's select, that now means that you can create these sort of pre-populated options versus having to like type in the same thing over and over again. So for priority, I would list something as like high priority, low priority, or like medium priority. But now when it comes time to fill that in again, I just click inside of the cell and then I can go on ahead and choose which priority I want it to be. See how easy that is? Look at that. Now, for my tags column, I can do the same exact thing. So these tags, I would say energy tags. Let me update this, because this is something that I notice people struggle with. It's like these systems tend to not work well because people aren't taking their own energy into account. They just see a long list of to-dos and a bunch of due dates next to them, and they're stressing out about how much needs to get done. But energy tags are super important because they help you to quickly see what you actually have the capacity for. Is this stuff also achievable in ClickUp? Yes, with built-in automations you can. But you can also just build them in here as well. Everything's super customizable. Even with the energy tags that I created, like the task feels aligned, or maybe not now, or maybe release it, or done enough, needs clarification, yada yada. You can also go in and change the you can edit them and change like the colors. So maybe like you want a different color associated with each one. So you can also change colors of statuses and tags inside of ClickUp. So you can do a lot of the same stuff. It's just a matter of, I would say, how much you want to build up front versus how customizable you need it. Like, how customizable do you need this? And also, are you willing to sacrifice the necessary build time up front? That's what I would say. But I mean, you can create pages in here. Like, documents, SOPs, all that stuff. You can also do that in ClickUp. A lot of these systems are really the same here. There is an interesting aspect to Notion where you do have this ability to kind of merge this idea of a task list with like an actual Excel database, for instance. Like if you're thinking about how in Excel you can have a spreadsheet of data, and you can create formulas with that data, and you can look at you can create visual representations of that data with like pivot tables and things like that. Like there is this interesting element of that added into Notion. So if, for instance, you were using Notion for more of like honestly, the first thing that comes to mind is like logistics, like in terms of maybe if you were selling products or something like that, like this might be a really nice tool to use so that you could like keep track of maybe orders or keeping track of inventory, something like that, where needing to know the amount of something, where analyzing the numbers would be helpful and would trigger other events than like other events in a workflow versus just analyzing data, because you could just analyze, you don't need all that to just analyze data. But if you needed the analysis of it to then trigger something else in a workflow, that could be really helpful with Notion. There's this formula, like this formula option here. I'm curious too with formula, like what kind of formula could I do? For instance, and they have a nice little like AI sort of helper here. Let me see if I can create a formula where if a energy tag is a certain thing and a priority field is a certain thing, if it would trigger like a due date of today. So say for instance, if I want to limit decision fatigue on what needs to get done today, I want to do something that feels aligned, and I also want to do something that's high priority, then maybe this could pre-populate a due date of today for something like that. Let me see if I can play with that. Status is not started. Energy tags is feels aligned, and priority is high. Then make due date today. All right. What if I change the status to done? And then it disappears. Ho, ho, ho. But if I change the status to not started, it makes the due date today. Yeah, that's pretty cool. I don't really know why it needs this date column though, because there's nothing in it, but I don't know. So yeah, I mean that's cool. And the what I would like, because I have ClickUp fingers, I would prefer it if like the due date said, instead of a date, if it said today and then also did that color change, because ClickUp will automatically, you don't have to set this up. If something's due today, it'll mark it as red. If something's due like coming up or soon, it'll mark it as like yellow and da-da-da. So I like that you don't have to build those things. They're just already a part of the system. I probably could format this in a way to do those things, but again, it would take just kind of sitting down with it, playing with it, maybe asking ChatGPT how to do it, and then you could get it done. You can play around. Formulas, I think, is an interesting concept, but you just have to know exactly what you're trying to do, and then probably ask ChatGPT how to create that formula that you want to do and how to make it look the way you want to look, and then just follow those basic instructions. But the capability is certainly here, that's for sure. Yeah, there's a lot of things here. You can tag people. So if you add people to your team, you can do that as well. Yeah, lots of capabilities here. I wonder what relation is. What's that? Relation. Related to, okay, so you could link to another database. This might be a simpler way to change the view of this whole database. settings here right next to this little, what is this, new templates for, that's interesting. Settings, layout, so right now it's in table form, but say I wanted to switch this to like a list view. I wonder what this would look like. Would it look any different from a table? Okay, it looks a little bit different from a table, but not too much. You don't see the statuses or any of the other properties though, which is interesting. Let's change the view again. Let's change it from a list to a calendar. All right, so we see the only thing listed was the thing with the due date. I wonder if I click in, can I see the other things? Okay, if I click in, then I can see the other setup. All right, so maybe the same works for list view. If I click in it, then I can see the tags and the other things associated with it. All right, okay. You know, I prefer to see all of it, so probably the table view would be the best view in this case. What else we got? Charts, galleys, boards. Okay, so if you're into like a Kanban board type style where the status is most important to you, seeing if something is in progress or done, then this could be helpful. But again, it looks like you'd have to click into the thing to see where it's at, and then I'm assuming you can just move it over when it's done. Yeah, okay. And then back to layout. I'll go back to tables. All right. And then say if I only wanted to see everything that's due for today, then I could filter. I could filter it by this week. I could filter it by this day. And then I literally just see the most important priority tasks, which are in progress, feels aligned, high today. Okay. Yeah, you know, so the basic functionality is there. Like it's pretty much the same in all these systems. But I tell you, the main 5 things that you want to just make sure you have if you need help, like staying on top of things and getting things done and not feeling so overwhelmed by your list, is 1, you want the task, you want it all written in one place, the task. 2, status, make sure that you have a way to mark things off as done. 3, energy tags, and these are completely customizable to what makes sense to you. These are just some examples that I have provided, but energy tags are important to help you prioritize. And then 4, actual priority, like what's actually like a high priority, something that's for you, high priority externally, like there's an external reason why it's a high priority. And then date. So due dates are just helpful to have, just so if there is something that has a definitive external due date that has to be followed, then that's important to keep in mind. But yeah, these 5 areas, categories, you can literally create a version of them in pretty much every single task management tool, project management tool. You can change the views based off of what lets you feel like not chaotic. You can organize these for all sorts of things. Like I'm just using basic tasks for this, but you can use this for your ideas. So like measuring like where like an idea is, how close it is to going from, idea freshly created to published, and creating different energy tags for how you feel about that. Like every area of your business, every aspect that has a workflow, you can create something like this so that you always know like what you're staying on top of. Now, one thing I do really appreciate about ClickUp is that it's built kind of like an onion, so you can create multiple lists within a workspace and see everything still all in one high level view. You also have the option to dig in and look at things, but specific lists, but you also have the option to see everything. Like when I look at my ClickUp dashboard, I look at everything, and that's helpful for me. So I wonder if there's a way to do that here. So I notice here that these pages, this databases page is listed underneath what was created for me called Elizabeth Clark's, what is this called? What did they name this? I don't know what they named this, but I'm wondering, oh, they called it Elizabeth Clark's Workspace HQ. So I'm wondering if there's a way to look at everything at that level. I can add members, team space settings. Looks like it's about giving permissions. I'm assuming this just adds, yeah, you can add an empty page or a database. And some of the pre-populated things like a task tracker, that probably could have saved a little bit of time in the beginning, and then you would just change the task types. But then in this example, you would have to manually input your tasks unless there's a feature to import, which there probably is, but sometimes importing can also be its own learning curve. And there are different ways you might have to tweak and clean up your data. Yeah, like there's an import option here. There might still be a way where you have to like import and tweak your data. So maybe you're listing all your tasks in like Excel or something, but then you have to make sure your headings are mapped appropriately and all that stuff. Like there's always a little bit of tweaking to get the data that you have to match the home where it's going to be. But I don't see a high level way to look at everything all together. Which is interesting. I do still appreciate, I almost want to ask ChatGPT and say, is there a way to do this in Notion? Because that to me makes ClickUp still #1 in my book. Okay, so yeah, it's technically kind of possible, but not really. I'm still gonna have to go with ClickUp for the win on this one. Like, and this is just me personally, but I love that onion feature. I love being able to see everything. So in ClickUp, I can create lists for just regular business tasks. I can create lists for like actual content. I can create lists related to client deliverables, all that stuff, and view it all together so that any given day, if I know that I want to know what's priority on my list, but also what feels aligned, then I can see it all in one place on literally one dashboard without having to build some weird wonky thing that may or may not meet my needs. And I know, okay, my priorities for today are to get this piece of content forward, but also to send out this invoice. Like, I just love that functionality. All right, but that is Notion in a nutshell. So let me know what you think. Let me know if you had any questions or if there's any aspects of it that you want me to explore further. But overall, it would get the job done. Like, it would get the job done for what you want to do if you want to go this route. Maybe I would recommend using the template they have, the task tracker template they have, just to kind of, so you don't have to worry about building from scratch, but you would still need to manually get your stuff in there or figure out how to import your stuff in. You would also need to still adjust like the tags, adjust the statuses, all that stuff. And you can and should adjust those things if you're using something like ClickUp as well. But just like keep in mind that, yeah, you're just going to have to do a lot of customization here, like a lot of customization. But I mean, if you want a lot of customization, if you're feeling like you've already outgrown things, like you've already outgrown some of these tools and you needed to do very specific things, then maybe this might be the route to go. But to me, it still feels like you would be kind of sacrificing some things as well. So I don't know. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you have any questions. I'd love to hear from you. And yeah, I'll catch you around. See you later.